well?
Huh?
You remember the heat and humidity really well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any other really early memories that kind of stand out to you?
Well, it was this Catholicism forced us all to be Catholics,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and in my view, that kind of socialization and compartmentalization is bad for society, especially American society.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're Catholics and they're Protestants. So they're bad in spite of the fact that they're in the minority and they've done a fabulous job of founding the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Wait, what elementary school did you go to?
Yes, Saints Philip and James Church, just around the corner from St. Philip's and James School, around the corner and 2 blocks away from St. Philip's and James Church.
Mm-hmm. And where'd you go to, like, middle school and junior high
There
school?
wasn't a middle school. There was this 8 grades of Catholic grammar school and then 8 grades of Catholic high school. And then really 4 more grades of Catholic college if you were so inclined or forced.
Mm-hmm. And wasn't your best, who was your best friend when you were little?
Oh, I had a bunch of them. Actually, one of the most unique best friends I had was a guy named Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
who was a black guy who was the nephew of the lady who was the housekeeper and cook at the fraternity house next door to us, the Beta Theta Phi Hopkins fraternity. And he and I got along well with one another in an era where, you know, blacks and whites weren't officially supposed to be getting along well with one another.
Uh-huh.
So,
And what ages were you friends with Berkeley?
oh, maybe 10, 11, 12, I don't know.
From age 10?
10, age 10, age 11, age 12, I'm not sure.
And then you just lost touch, or?
No, can you remember back? I guess you could remember back that close, but I've kind of lost memory chronology of some of this.
Oh yeah, no, I don't have a good memory. But do you remember his last name?
No, and I really regret that. I'd love to run into him today and see how he's done and compare it with how I've done in life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I do remember one day where he and I tried to go into which would essentially be something like a 7-Eleven today, to get a Coke,
Mm-hmm.
which was one of your limited resources back then for something to drink together on a hot afternoon. And they wouldn't serve him. And I remember saying to the waitress, but he's okay. I know he's black, but he's okay. And she said, no, I can't serve him. He's black, I can't serve him. And that just really set my dislike of bigotry for the rest of my life. Right then and there, that just threw a switch in my brain. Hey, this is wrong. You know?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
This is terribly unfair. And I could see the unfairness of it all firsthand.
Mm-hmm. How do you remember how he reacted? How Berkeley reacted?
No, he was pretty stoic about the whole thing. We just got up and left, resigned. But you know, we'd wander together from between his neighborhood and mine that weren't that far apart, a few city blocks apart, you know. And we must have been old enough and big enough at that point where, you know, we felt comfortable wandering around the city.
Mm-hmm.
And the cities were a lot safer back then, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember being in his neighborhood and him saying, I know he's white, but he's okay. And he'd be in my neighborhood, a black kid in a white neighborhood, and I'd be saying, I know he's black, but he's okay. And we had to go through that kind of
And how'd you even meet?
bridge. Well, he was just a kid next door.
Oh, okay.
And I had never...
Because he was with his mom at work?
Yeah, after school, he'd go visit his aunt at work there. And so he and a couple of his cousins that I got to know would hang out there after school. You know, it was a black family taking care of itself. at that time.
Hmm.
You know, and the mother had to work and the aunt had to work, so they'd take care of the young kids at their places of work. You know,
Mhm.
it goes on to the kind of a nursery school type thing, but it wasn't.
Hmm.
But it was the same concept of what do you do between the time that the kids get off from school and the parents get off from school. Well, he would go there, and I met him that way, and you know, sports weren't organized at that point, so you know, we'd get together a little pickup baseball game or football game or something like that on a vacant lot in the neighborhood.
Do you remember his aunt's name or his,
No, I
his
sure don't.
mom's name? So his mother didn't work next door. His aunt did.
Right.
Oh, okay. That's cool. And you went for high school. You went to Loyola.
Yeah. It's one of those kind of like a boarding school, kind of like Georgetown Prep.
Uh huh.
You know, this little enclave up on a hill with fancy granite buildings
Yeah.
and strange men in black robes wandering around there trying to run the place.
Hmm. Did you ever you biked around the city a lot, right?
Huh?
You biked around Baltimore a lot.
Oh, all over.
Mm-hmm.
Border to border and then some.
Mm-hmm. Would you ever go to Fells Point?
Oh, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it as Fells Point. I didn't know what it was or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was down to Fort McHenry and, out to a place called Sparrows Point where Bud McNicholas grew up.
Mm-hmm.
There was Bethlehem Steel Company had a ship repair operation going on out there, and so Bud McNicholas's dad was working out there, and Bud was staying in town and going to Hopkins at the time, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, and he and your Aunt Anne Marie met and got married, and that's how I met Bud. But Bud lived out at Sparrows Point, so you know, if I wanted to go and visit Sparrows Point, once I found out what it was and where it was, I rode all the way out there, and it was a long distance for a little kid at that point in time on a bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Your parents let you do that, or were they just kind of oblivious?
I don't think they knew about it until I come home and say, "Hey, guess where I was?"
They didn't care.
I don't remember any big negative reactions. Again, I was the last of 5 kids, and
So they were kind of hands off with you.
either that or I was hands-on with myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was kind of an adventurer and wanderer and explorer.
Mm-hmm.
Basically because my family wasn't doing any. You know, my immediate family, my mother wasn't going to go venturing on a bicycle across town with me, you know. And by that time, my sisters were all raising families, and
Mm.
so I was kind of on my own. And
Yeah, on an average day, how would you usually spend your free time during the week or the weekends or?
various ways, a lot of Cub Scout and Boy Scout activities,
Mm-hmm.
and they even had me, believe it or not, I was an altar boy for a while, and praying to God for God knows what, because
Mhm.
things were pretty good. I couldn't complain.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, just getting into regular mischief type stuff that I can still remember. That's maybe why you guys were able to get into regular mischief type stuff without having too many ramifications yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, let's face it, you guys got away with a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But I never looked at it on that. I just looked on it as exploring and adventuring and
Mm-hmm.
picking up stuff on your own.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
How would you spend summers, like your summers off?
I remember being allowed to go to summer camp. Some people looked on it as being forced to go to summer camp.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it was a neat way to get out of the city and get into different activities.
Mm-hmm.
Go play in the woods, that sort of thing. Go
Mhm.
meet different kids from different parts of town and different parts of the country. And
Mm-hmm.
so I had a lot of fun in summer camps, that sort of thing. Kind of like that wildlife camp you guys went to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, out in the Appalachians. And the
Yeah, do you remember the names of these summer camps you'd go to?
Camp John Bosco was one of them in West Virginia. And again, you had all these religious connections. I think it was a religious run camp. Probably to keep us nice little Catholic boys from intermingling with those horrible Protestant people.
Mm. So you would go to West Virginia from Baltimore for camp,
Uh-huh.
and you'd get there by car or bus or what?
I don't remember. A little bit of both, maybe.
Yeah.
But I mean, West Virginia isn't very far. The West Virginia mountains aren't very far from Baltimore. It's an easy day trip, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Probably easier than going from here to Moab and back.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Pretty West Virginia hill country and farm country.
And didn't you roller skate too as a kid? Oh,
Huh?
Didn't you roller skate as a kid too?
Oh yeah. Oh, that was a big deal when we were kids, roller skating.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. And a lot of these manufactured toys that you see people riding around on now, we made them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you could take apart some roller skates and screw the wheels to a piece of plywood and put a stick on it. What have you got? A skateboard.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this stuff that looks new and modern today is just newly and modernly manufactured. It's kind of sad too, because it took away the requirement for somebody to physically build something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, father and son didn't go out together and build a skateboard
Mm-hmm.
anymore. They go to Walmart and buy one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that deprived you and I of that contact.
Did they even have Walmart when you grew up?
No. No, Walmart is only a couple or 3 decades old. You could look it up on the internet,
Mhm.
which obviously you can live without, because I did.
Mm-hmm. And then you went to West Point for college, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where is West Point? New York?
It's up along the Hudson River, north of New York.
Yeah, okay.
There's a town called Peekskill that's up in that general area. Gosh, I can't remember the other names of the places.
And that's where your brother went to?
Yeah, he went to West Point. After he graduated from Loyola College in Baltimore. I don't know where he went to high school in Baltimore, but he graduated from Loyola College
Mm-hmm.
4 years after high school. That makes him at least 21 years old, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So here he is in 1942, the year I was born. He graduated from college, and the military needed college graduates, well, anybody they could get, but he could have been made an officer through the officer candidate school, and just zoom, been made an officer in the Army. And he busted his butt to qualify to go to West Point instead. And West Point had an accelerated program at the time where you could get through there in 3 years instead of 4. And the war was over by the time he graduated. So he missed World War II,
Mm-hmm.
hiding out in West Point. I don't understand that time period, but I'd sure like to get some more of the story, because right now I got a bad impression of his behavior.
And overall, about West Point, did you like it there or no?
It was a challenge. And it's not something you went there to like. It's something you went there
Mhm.
to qualify for,
Mhm.
to get through and get qualified as an officer in the Army.
Were there any other colleges you considered, or did you have any choice in the matter?
You asked me what I did as in my youth. Another thing I did was get involved in horses. I absolutely love horses. I like to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
So through my contact with horses before high school and during high school, I really wanted to go to an agricultural school as my only pathway that I knew of to get into agriculture and get into raising animals and farming and stuff. Because the people I met through riding horses and taking care of horses, made me more attracted to that line of work and rural lifestyle and a ticket out of the city,
Mm-hmm.
than I would by just following the party line and going to the local college and go to the local law school and be a local lawyer and drive up and down Charles Street for the rest of my life. I didn't want to do that. So West Point was way out of town, but instead I really wanted to get into agriculture, and I didn't know how or or where, So being totally ignorant and kept ignorant, I ended up at West Point instead of some agricultural school somewhere.
Hmm. Well, West Point was real strict, huh?
Well, yeah. When it was founded, there was no other engineering training school in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So they founded, the government set up the military academy, and it predated the Naval Academy and predated by a century anyway, the Air Force Academy. But it was the whole purpose was to train military engineers to provide military and industrial leadership. And so, and it predated most of the rest of the colleges and universities and all the higher education in the United States.
Hmm.
As a university, I don't know the history of the development of places like Harvard and Yale, which were two other early universities.
Yeah. Did you consider any other school, or was there any other?
No, I really didn't know where else to go.
And your parents didn't offer any advice, or?
Well, the default school was Loyola College in Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
just up the street again. The Catholic tentacles throughout the city of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my choice. And that's where your Uncle Bob graduated from college.
And you didn't consider going there? You didn't want to go there?
Oh, heck no. I'd had enough of Jesuit schools by then, because it was another Jesuit school. You go from a Catholic grammar school to a Jesuit high school to another Jesuit college. Forget it. That was just something I didn't want to go to.
Mm.
Now, none of these private universities are as compartmentalized as they used to be. There's a Catholic university called Notre Dame in Indiana, and it's kind of managed by some religious order, but they take anybody in there as a student now, as far as I know, to get a quality student body.
Was West Point hard to get into?
Not at that time. It didn't seem to be, because they took me in with a kind of a B average out of high school. I wasn't a real highly motivated high school student.
Mm-hmm.
I was just intelligent and had an ability to learn stuff, but I wasn't highly motivated.
Mm-hmm. But didn't you have to get like a sponsor or something, or someone like some?
There are several ways of getting into the military academies, all of them. One of them is to have political connections and get an appointment to the academy, and that's, I think, the way most people get in.
Mm-hmm.
Another way is to get an appointment through the Army itself. You join the Army, enlist in the Army, and decide you want to go, and you do a good job as a soldier, and you get appointed through that path.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get in that way instead of getting a political appointment. And some of the political appointments now are a lot less political than they were. Apparently somebody in our extended family was politically connected well enough to get my name put in front of this guy who gave me my appointment, this congressman who gave me an appointment. And the appointment just lets you take the test. You still have to pass a physical test, and your grades still have to be high enough. And I think at that time they had an entrance exam, or no, the entrance exam they used was the same entrance exam as entrance exams to other colleges, the equivalent of the SATs.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, you had to go pass the tests, and at the same time get blessed by the local politicians
Mm-hmm.
to get in. So I jumped through all the hoops and was admitted.
Mm-hmm.
I've got the documents admitting me to West Point. The letter of acceptance and all this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've got rolled up in a canister right behind where you're leaning. I got this tube with my diploma, which remains unframed, plus my unframed graduation from the University of Denver. Let's take a break. I'd like to go